Baron Trump at Hogwarts. The golden envelope arrived on a crisp autumn morning in 2024, delivered not by the usual postal service but by an owl, a sleek, tawny creature with piercing amber eyes. It swooped through the open window of the Trump family's Mar-a-Lago estate, landing gracefully on the polished mahogany table in the dining room. Baron Trump, then 18, tall and lanky with his father's sharp features and his mother's contemplative gaze, froze mid-bite, his fork hovering over a plate of eggs. The owl dropped the envelope and hooted softly, as if impatient for him to open it. Baron's mother, Melania, glanced up from her coffee, her brow furrowing. "What is that?" she asked, her Slovenian accent softening the edges of her words. Baron reached for the envelope, its surface shimmering faintly, as if dusted with starlight. The wax seal bore an intricate crest, a lion, eagle, badger, and serpent intertwined around a bold H. His heart thudded. He'd read enough books. Secretly, in the quiet hours after his family's political whirlwind settled, to recognize the symbol of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. "Baron, be careful," Melania cautioned, but her voice held curiosity, not fear. His father was away, campaigning in some distant state, which left Baron free to explore this mystery without the usual scrutiny. He broke the seal, the wax crumbling like ancient parchment, and unfolded the letter. The words, written in emerald green ink, seemed to glow. "Dear Mr. Baron Trump, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Headmistress." Baron's breath caught. Hogwarts. Magic. A world he'd only dreamed of in the pages of novels he kept hidden under his bed. He'd always felt different. Strange moments when objects moved without him touching them, or when he'd known things before they happened, like the time he predicted a storm that no meteorologist saw coming. He'd chalked it up to intuition, but this letter suggested something more. "Mom," he said, holding up the letter, "this says I'm a wizard." Melania's eyes widened, but she didn't laugh or dismiss it. She took the letter, read it carefully, and then looked at her son with a rare intensity. "If this is real," she said, "you must go. You are meant for more than this world." By September 1st, Barron found himself standing on platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station, a place that shimmered into existence only for those who knew where to look. He'd convinced his mother to let him go alone, insisting he needed to face this new world without the shadow of his family's name. His trunk, packed with robes, a wand, 12 inches, cedar, dragon heartstring core, purchased from Ollivanders, and a stack of spellbooks, rattled behind him as he boarded the Hogwarts Express. The train was a marvel, scarlet and gleaming, filled with students chattering about Quidditch and charms. Barron, used to being recognized, kept his head down, his height making him stand out despite his efforts. He found an empty compartment and settled in, staring out at the rolling English countryside. A knock on the door startled him. "Mind if I join you?" A girl with wild red hair and a scattering of freckles stood there, holding a cage with a sleepy owl inside. "I'm Fiona Weasley. 6th year, Gryffindor." Barron nodded, unsure how to respond. "Barron," he said simply, omitting his last name. Fiona didn't seem to notice, plopping down across from him and launching into a story about her cousin's prank gone wrong at the Burrow. Her energy was infectious, and Barron found himself relaxing, even laughing, a rare sound for him. The journey passed quickly, filled with Fiona's tales and the occasional interruption by other students peeking in, curious about the tall, quiet newcomer. When the train pulled into Hogsmeade Station, Barron's nerves returned. The castle loomed in the distance, its towers piercing the starry sky, its windows glowing like 1,000 lanterns. It was real. He was here. The great hall was a spectacle of floating candles and enchanted ceilings, the air thick with anticipation as first years and a few older transfers, like Barron, were led to the front for the sorting ceremony. The sorting hat, patched and frayed, sat on a stool, its voice echoing in Barron's mind even before it touched his head. When his name was called, Barron Trump. A murmur rippled through the hall. His family's fame had followed him, even here. He ignored the whispers, focusing on the hat as it settled over his eyes. The hat mused, its voice a low, gravelly whisper in his mind. Ambitious, oh, very ambitious. A sharp mind, too, with a knack for innovation. But there's bravery here, buried deep, and loyalty to those you hold dear. A difficult choice. Slytherin could hone your drive, but Gryffindor might bring out your heart. Where to put you? Barron's pulse quickened. He didn't know enough about the houses to choose, but he thought of his father's relentless ambition, his mother's quiet strength. He wanted to be more than a name, more than a shadow. Put me where I can make a difference, he thought, hoping the hat could hear. Slytherin, the hat declared, and the table draped in green and silver erupted in cheers. Barron exhaled, walking toward his new house, feeling the weight of curious eyes. A boy with slicked-back blonde hair, Draco Malfoy's grandson, clapped him on the shoulder. Welcome to the best house, Trump. I'm Scorpius. Stick with us, and you'll go far. Barron adapted quickly to Hogwarts, though the transition wasn't seamless. Potions class with Professor Slughorn was a nightmare. Barron's first attempt at a draft of Living Death turned his cauldron into a bubbling, neon-green mess. Charms, however, came naturally. Professor Flitwick praised his precise wand work, comparing it to a conductor's baton. But it was Transfiguration, under the stern eye of Professor McGonagall, where Barron truly shone. He had a knack for visualizing change, for bending reality to his will. By his second month, he transfigured a teacup into a living, breathing mouse, albeit one with a handle for a tail. Slytherin House was a mixed bag. Some, like Scorpius, were welcoming, seeing Barron as a potential ally. Others, wary of his fame, kept their distance, whispering about that American Muggleborn, despite Barron's insistence that he wasn't Muggleborn, just late to discover his magic. Fiona, his trained companion, became a surprising friend, sneaking him into the Gryffindor common room for late-night chess matches, where he learned she was as cunning as any Slytherin, despite her house's reputation. But Barron's mind was restless. He wasn't content with spells and potions alone. He'd always been a tinkerer, building gadgets in his room back home, crude robots, hacked-together drones. At Hogwarts, he saw magic as a new kind of technology, one he could shape. In the library, he pored over books on magical theory, scribbling notes on how enchantments could be streamlined, made more efficient. He dreamed of a device that could amplify magic, make it accessible to weaker wizards or even muggles. The idea for his magical gadget came during a late-night study session in the Slytherin common room. He was struggling with a particularly tricky spell, Aguamenti, which was supposed to conjure water but only produced a sad trickle from his wand. Frustrated, he sketched a device on parchment, a small, handheld orb that could store and amplify magical energy, allowing anyone to cast spells with greater power. He called it the Arcane Amplifier. Over the next few months, Barron worked in secret, using the Room of Requirement as his workshop. The room transformed into a cluttered laboratory, filled with charmed tools and glowing runes. He combined Muggle engineering with magical principles, enchanting a crystal core to hold magical energy and wiring it with silver threads infused with unicorn hair. He tested it alone, late at night, whispering spells into the orb and watching as they erupted with 10 times the force. A simple Lumos became a blinding beacon, a Wingardium Leviosa lifted an entire desk. But the amplifier wasn't perfect. It was unstable, prone to overloading, and once nearly set the Room of Requirement on fire. Barron needed help, but he was hesitant to share his invention. Hogwarts was competitive, and he'd heard stories of students stealing ideas. Still, he trusted Fiona. One night, he showed her the prototype, its surface pulsing with faint blue light. Barron, this is insane, Fiona said, turning the orb in her hands. You could change everything. Wizards who struggle with magic, squibs, even muggles, they could use this. That's the point, Barron said, his voice quiet but intense. Magic shouldn't be just for the elite. It should be for everyone. Fiona raised an eyebrow. Careful. That kind of talk will get you in trouble with the purebloods. She was right. When word of the amplifier leaked, thanks to a nosy Ravenclaw overhearing Barron and Fiona in the library, the reaction was swift. Some Slytherins, led by Scorpius's rival, a haughty seventh-year named Lysander Zabini, called it an abomination, a threat to wizarding tradition. Others, especially in Hufflepuff and Gryffindor, were intrigued, whispering about a new era of magic. Professor McGonagall summoned Barron to her office, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Trump," she said, "your invention is remarkable, but dangerous. Magic is not a toy to be democratized. It requires discipline, control. What if this device falls into the wrong hands?" Barron stood tall, his jaw set. "With respect, Professor, magic is already in the wrong hands. People use it to control, to exclude. I want to level the playing field." McGonagall's eyes softened, but she shook her head. "You're young, and idealistic. But you must be careful. The Ministry is watching, and not all will see your vision as you do." The Ministry's interest came sooner than expected. By spring, rumors of the arcane amplifier had reached the Department of Mysteries, and a stern-faced Auror named Cassandra Blackwood arrived at Hogwarts to investigate. She interviewed Barron, her wand tapping impatiently against her desk as he explained his invention. "It's not about power," Barron insisted. "It's about access. Magic is a gift, but it's locked away for so many. I want to change that." Blackwood's expression was unreadable. "Your intentions may be noble, Mr. Trump, but the implications are vast. We'll be watching you closely." The scrutiny only fueled Barron's determination. He refined the amplifier, working with Fiona and a small group of trusted students, a Hufflepuff named Liam who was a genius with runes, and a Ravenclaw named Priya who understood magical theory better than most professors. Together, they stabilized the device, creating a version that could be safely used by anyone with even a spark of magical ability. The turning point came during the annual Hogwarts exhibition, a showcase of student projects. Barron, against McGonagall's advice, presented the arcane amplifier. He stood before the Great Hall, the orb glowing in his hand, and demonstrated its power. He cast a Protego shield that enveloped the entire hall, shimmering like a dome of starlight. The crowd gasped, then erupted in applause, except for Lysander and his clique, who stormed out. The exhibition caught the attention of the wider wizarding world. The Daily Prophet ran a front-page story, "American Prodigy Invents Magical Revolution." Letters poured in, some praising Barron's ingenuity, others accusing him of destabilizing the wizarding hierarchy. The Ministry issued a formal inquiry, demanding he surrender the amplifier for study. Barron refused, hiding the prototype in the room of requirement. As his first year at Hogwarts drew to a close, Barron faced a choice. He could comply with the Ministry, hand over his invention, and return to a life of safety and obscurity. Or he could fight for his vision, risking everything, his place at Hogwarts, his family's reputation, even his freedom. He chose the latter. With Fiona, Liam, and Priya by his side, Barron formed a secret group called the Arcane Collective, dedicated to developing and protecting magical innovations. They worked in the shadows, refining the amplifier and creating new devices, a wand that adapted to its user's skill level, a quill that translated spells into any language, a cloak that shielded against tracking charms. They shared their work with trusted allies, building a network that spanned Hogwarts and beyond. Barron's time at Hogwarts wasn't just about magic, it was about finding his purpose. He'd arrived as a boy overshadowed by his family's legacy, unsure of his place in the world. He left his first year as a leader, a visionary, a wizard who dared to dream of a world where magic was for everyone. The Sorting Hat had been right, he was ambitious, but brave. And in Slytherin, he found not just a house, but a home where he could forge his own path. As the Hogwarts Express carried him back to London that summer, Barron stared out the window, the arcane amplifier hidden in his trunk. The wizarding world was changing, and he was at the heart of it. Whatever came next, ministry crackdowns, rival inventors, or the weight of his own ambition, he was ready.